Hello, my name's Caroline Gilby, Master of Wine, specialist in the wines of the Balkans and Eastern Europe, and Vranec's Ambassador. So I wanted to talk to you today about why I'm so enthusiastic about this wonderful grape, this black stallion grape to translate it. So it's a grape that is local to the Balkans. It originated probably on the land that is Montenegro today, but of course country borders, political borders and so on have changed many times over the centuries. And it arrived in the land that is the Republic of North Macedonia today. It arrived there in the 1950s in an experimental vineyard at the university and was very quickly taken to the hearts of grape growers and winemakers all over the country, and it seems it found its promised land. Of course, in that first era, in the period of Yugoslavia, it was very much about volume, and Vranec proved itself to be pretty good as a workhorse grape. But there's a lot more to it than that, and that has been emerging over the last few years. So my little analogy here is that, imagine you've got this old nag of a horse who's doing all the hard work, pulling the ploughs, dragging the carts around, not really being fed properly, all skin and bones, and then somebody else buys it and feeds it properly and pays it attention and gives it the right schooling and the right exercises, and then what emerges is this beautiful, sleek, well-muscled stallion of a horse. So Vranec actually does mean black stallion. And it's happened time and time again for those workhorse grapes in the Balkans and Eastern Europe that paid the right attention, low yields, hand picking, the right sites, altitude and so on and so on. And something completely different has emerged out of the remnants of the last era. And in the country, it's had this reputation for volume and for bulk, but the producers there are working really hard to work together and to identify their best terroirs and to really express the best that they can do with this grape that definitely has become a flagship for the country. So it suits the growing conditions in North Macedonia so well. They have more of it than anywhere else in the world, 10,800 hectares. So it's very much their special grape. And it obviously suits the climate. So the climate is sort of a bit of Mediterranean influence meeting continental influence. It's very sunny, mostly well over 200 sunny days a year, sunniest place on the Balkans, and it can get pretty hot in the summer. So you need grapes that can obviously tolerate that, but more than that, the vineyards are surrounded by mountains, so you get mountain breezes, and you get breezes up the river valleys like the Vadar River Valley, which is the core of Macedonian wine production. So it's a very interesting climate for the right grapes, and I would argue that Vranec is the right grape. So what makes it a quality grape? In my view, there are several reasons. One is that, it can deliver, looked after properly, it can deliver amazing richness, ripeness and concentration. And along with that, it has really nice acidity, and that means it's possible to make these beautifully balanced wines. They can be rich and ripe, but they have the freshness to carry it as well. So that's two things, and that intense structure also means you can do quite a lot in terms of winemaking. So you can do late harvest, you can ferment in oak, you can age in oak, you can age in concrete, or there's lots of choices for the winemaker. I also think it's a grape that reflects its terroir. It reflects where it's grown, it reflects the different soil types, it reflects the altitude and so on. So that's an important component, a grape that can deliver a sense of place. And finally, I would argue that ageability is a feature of a great grape variety. So and we'll have a look at that in a minute when I have a look at a couple of the wines. So this little talk is actually going to be about the role of Vranec in blending, and I think that what it can do in blends is it can offer an extra dimension, it can offer a real sense of place to alongside an international grape variety, and it can also act as a bridge between different components. So let's first of all have a look at the first wine, which is from Puklavec in their wineries in Negotino, and the vineyard for this wine is in Disan, which is in the Tikveš region, which is regarded as really one of the top, almost a cru vineyard sites, high up, old vines and so on. So this is Merlot with Vranec, and in hot climates, Merlot, I have to say, for me sometimes can be a little bit soupy. But anyway, let's taste the wine. So it's a young wine with really lovely crushed bilberry, wild blueberry fruit, brambles. So I think there's the soft, fleshy Merlot fruit here, but what the Vranec brings into the blend is it brings the bright sour cherry, fresh acidity, so it makes a really nice combination. You know, the Vranec adds to the Merlot, and the Merlot gives a layer of flesh and fresh fruit over the Vranec as well. So very attractive young wine, still 2018, and I think they're going to mock in the proper labels, so definitely a wine to look out for. You know, beautifully clean, beautifully made, really attractive fruit. So then next to it we have Chateau Kamnik, Winemakers Selection 2018. So Chateau Kamnik is one of Macedonia's smallest wineries with just 17 hectares, started in 2004 as the personal vision of the owner, just outside the capital Skopje. So there's a beautiful little chateau and the vineyards around the chateau overlooking the city. Of course, being on a hilltop, you've got the advantage of altitude, sunny slopes, but also air drainage and breezes. So female winemaker here, Sandra, who obviously carefully selected the grapes, as it's the Winemakers Selection. They've been vinified in small wooden tanks with pneumatic punch downs, and this is a blend of 40% Merlot, 40% Vranec in conversion to organic production, and 20% Carmenere. So let's have a little taste. Lovely rich berry fruit here, nice blackberry components from the Merlot, some real black cherry and cloves, and sour cherry notes from the Vranec component, and just a little bit of nice raspberry from the Carmenere component as well. But I think the Vranec acts really well as an intermediary to bring the other two components together. And I really love the purity of fruit here. It's rich and rounded, but there's real pure expression of fruit, no distraction from layers of oak at this stage. Again, young wine, 2018, definitely keeping potential here from the freshness that the Vranec gives to it, but also something you could very much enjoy drinking now. So next to it, we're going to go back a year, and we're going to go to another of Macedonia's smaller wineries, the Popov winery, owned by Mr. Popov, and it's 55 hectare winery, so one of Macedonia's smaller. And this is their Grand Cuvee Reserve from 2017, and this is 40% Merlot, 30% Cabernet Sauvignon, 30% Vranec, from 20-year-old vines, hand harvested. And this has 30 months in Macedonian and French oak. So the oak's definitely there. This is a rich, ripe wine. It's more structured. I think 2017 was a vintage that delivered slightly more structured wines. So more tannin, but also I would expect more structure to go with the oak. And the oak is balsamic, it's spicy, it's creamy, but actually there's enough fruit there to balance it really nicely. And the winery thinks another 6 to 8 years for this to be in perfect condition, and yeah, I can see that. You know, it's really nice fruit, structure, grip, but grainy, fine grained tannins, quite supple, but enough there to give the keeping potential, and the oak gives another dimension, creaminess and texture and so on to the wine. So taking us back a year, this is a 3-year-old wine, but I think definitely one you could tuck away. Then we're going to go back to 2015, and this feeds into my argument about ageability. So still very youthful, even though it's a 5-year-old wine already. There's layers of complexity here, starting to get those sort of coffee, toasted, complex notes, as well as just the purity of the fruit. But there is still blackberry here, there's wild berries, there's some spice too, and I think this works very well in explaining the bridging between the Cabernet Sauvignon. The Vranec fills some of the structural holes of the Cabernet Sauvignon, and the Merlot, which tends, as said, to be a little bit softer and fleshier, and the Vranec can fill that and fill the acidity that's lacking from the Merlot. So the combination works really well to bridge the wines. And this one had 18 months in oak as well, and it's from a beautiful site on a hilltop surrounded by mountains, and yeah, it's really stunning location, this vineyard. Definitely want to go and visit and taste the wines alongside the vines. So that's my little discussion of the role of the wonderful Vranec in blending. And I love seeing these sorts of wines that show that Macedonia can grow international grapes really well, but almost it's a so what with those sometimes attitudes are that, oh yeah, I've got Cabernet from somewhere else. But by blending them with Vranec, you can add another layer of complexity to the wine, but you can also do something that is uniquely Macedonian, is uniquely of its place, and delivers a real sense of what the country is all about. So can I encourage you to explore more of the wonderful grape that is Vranec, and come and join in the World Vranec Day celebrations on the 5th of October with lots more talks and tastings. Thank you.